And the funny thing about that song is the demo, there was almost too much of Nashville on it. Like there was too many guitars, the drums were kind of boombastic. It just sounded too big. So we decided to go in the back of my publishing company. We have a little studio, and scale back, turn off all the drums, and we kept an acoustic guitar part and an electric and a drum loop that my song plugger actually programmed the loop, and the song got cut off of that. So
good, see?
Yeah. So, and actually with Lady A hearing the song, that's a whole nother thing, that God thing that just kind of happened real quick. My publisher walked into their publisher, Paul Worley, and Charles Kelly just happened to be standing there. Yeah. So that was a moment where the artist was actually sitting there when they played it for him. So we were very fortunate for that. So. Sorry to ramble.
No, but it helps for them to see the journey of,
yeah, you know,
I mean, that's what we're here, hopefully you guys are here for, right? To hear how things kind of unveil, so that's Definitely. Cool.
Hey, Billy, talk more about that. I mean, if someone's here, they're a songwriter, they wrote a song, now what? What do they do with a song?
Well, I don't work with publishers anymore, so I'm kind of in the dark as to how it unfolds, but I'm sure it's always been the same. We've probably gotten the majority of our cuts ourselves, just relationship-wise, connecting with somebody, handing them something, or knowing somebody. But in terms of writing, you have to first of all understand, if you give, the more direct you are to your approach of, are you an artist? Are you a writer? Do you want somebody to really record this song? I mean, start with the basics and know what that means. So if you feel like you're not a great singer, but you have something to say, it's very, very hard to get your music out unless you have an avenue or a publisher to get the right kind of singers or the right kind of, you know, a lot of you might know this or not, but all these guys, the publisher companies have a Carrie Underwood sound-alike. They have a Taylor Swift sound-alike, even though they probably won't pitch them to Taylor. Yeah. But it's a whole separate thing from the artist's side of things. So you have to really put on, when you say, two separate hats.
Well, you definitely do.
And there's no easy answers, except if you want to be a songwriter for other people, you understand that. And then if you want to be an artist, and then you might have extra songs, and you're willing to give those up, always know, if you have confidence in what you write, that you're able to give something up. Whiteheart, we had 21 or 22, I don't know, but we had a lot of #1 songs, but if we'd have pitched those to the other Christian artists, probably 17 of them would not have been accepted. Just understand what that means. Maybe 4 of them, you know, where everybody would have said, oh, if I do that, I'm going to have a big song. Because we were artists, so we wrote for ourselves, and we developed our branding as an artist, and we had something to say, and they were good songs, but like maybe Rebecca, it might not have hit her. So you have to understand, when you're a writer, that you have a writer's hat and what that means.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps a little.
That's cool.
Something that's really coming to mind too, just based on what you guys are saying and kind of expanding on it, is a little girl wrote me a note years ago, and she said, bloom where God plants you. And it's always stuck with me, just that advice. And when people ask me about, you know, how do you get started being a singer or a songwriter, I've actually often used that it's a very simple little, you know, grouping of words, but it's very encouraging. Bloom where God plants you. And the reason I say that is because I ended up recording a song that I heard 5 years prior at Willow Creek Church, and it was literally a song that the music pastor had written the night before for the sermon that morning. And it was a song on forgiveness, because the sermon was on forgiveness. I heard it in this random service, got the demo, wrote to the worship pastor, got the demo, and ended up using it on an album like 5-6 years later. It sat in my bedside drawer for 5 years. Wow. And so, like, but that's the power of a song. I'm getting goosebumps just saying that. Like, if you're blooming where God is planting you, and you're being faithful with your gifting in your church or in your local community or in your music cafe, and you're making great art and music that is honoring to God, and it's connecting, that will get noticed, you know. like the buzz will go out about you, and you just never know who might end up hearing that. The favor of God and this chain of events happens, that somebody picks it up. So all that to just encourage you, bloom where God plants you and watch him take you on an awesome adventure.
Yeah, I think all of us sitting up here could tell you a story about the fact that we all came here with one thing in mind, and God said, well, how about this, And it's like he says, if you'll just trust me, I'll take you somewhere that you would have never even dreamed. You couldn't even have dreamed this big. I mean, I had no intentions of being a songwriter, and I just moved here and started, it's start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And that's exactly another way of saying bloom where God plants you. And so I think we would all agree that, there's a place for everything. I know you probably want to be writing for the biggest artist, or you want to be singing, as the artist, you want to be singing for a sold-out arena. But that's not going to happen for everybody. There's a place for everybody. There is a great coffee shop where you can go minister. There are churches that may not be the huge mega churches, but there's a place for you to go minister, maybe as a worship pastor or whatever. So
That's awesome.
it's true that there's a reason why God has you where he has you right at this moment.
Yeah, it's great. Brian, where do you find your fresh song ideas?
Living. If we're standing out in the hallway after this and you're talking to me and I get this glazed look, you've just said something that I'm going, oh no.
And then if you see him get his phone out like he's sending a text message,
And-
he's not. He's writing down a great
You know
idea.
what? I have found in, whether it's in the CCM world or the country world or the pop world, wherever we're writing, the best ideas are the ones that come from just real life and where people are at. I mean, obviously, Scripture and time with the Lord, that's obviously, I think we all would understand that it's all divine and God gives. But I think if you're not paying attention and listening with God ears, then you miss a lot of things, And there's thoughts that statements people have made. My pastor, he probably deserves to have a lot of percentage on a lot of my songs. I had an artist I was working with back in the day. Wow, I'm dating myself when I say this. Brian Barrett was kind of a Christian country artist at the time. And Max Lucado had a book out called He Still Moves Stones. And we all thought, well, that would make a great song. And so we unashamedly wrote a song called He Still Moves Stones. And I thought, well, do we need to call Max and say, Max, we took your time? But I mean, life is full of all the time. And you know what? If you're listening and you're watching the people around you, and some songs, and I'm going to kind of ratify what's been said here, some songs are meant for the moment and meant for, you write something for your church, your local body, and it's meant for healing or for ministry or whatever right there. And some songs are meant for the world. And because your song doesn't make it to the world does not make it insignificant. It doesn't mean that...
It doesn't mean that it hasn't touched one person,
Yeah.
and that's sometimes why you write them.
And we used to talk about it all the time, and you hear pastors say this and ministry people say this, well, if it only moves one person. And sometimes I want to go, yeah, but do you really believe that? Because when you go to your record table tonight, and if nobody bought anything but that one person came to know the Lord, are you walking out of there feeling like that was significant? And as a songwriter, obviously it's financially a great thing when we have #1 songs and the world's listening and singing along. But some of my favorite songs that I've ever written have never been recorded, but I've seen how God uses them in a setting where I might sing it. And I go, you know what? Why that's never made it to another level, I don't know, but maybe God just wanted it for right there. And so I think living and watching and being aware of your circumstances and people around you, that's where song ideas come from. And again, I love to go to Borders and sit and just kind of thumb through magazines and stuff, because there's all sorts of great titles that are hanging out there, and bumper stickers and
Movies,
Movies is a good one.
middle of the night, can't sleep,
hanging out
and you're
with
just
Carrie
like...
Barlow. There's
Yeah.
always some kind of
Whatever.
I don't know who wants to answer. Carrie, Karen, whoever, Billy, any of you can answer. I've written with Brian, so I want to go ask him questions because I want to know his mind. But we've written together. I've recorded a song on my last record that we wrote together.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. But I wanted to ask, in Nashville, how many of you write songs?
Wow.
How many of you have co-written songs? Okay, cool. So I never co-wrote co-wrote